Outland is a simple Metroidvania resembling platformer which was solidly realized on a base level and then never really expanded beyond that. You could take almost any part of the game to see that really everything seems well designed and is pretty fun, but because very little is introduced as you progress through the game, the experience ends up being a little bit dissatisfying. Though first, let's talk about the one thing that Outland actually does excellently. The whole game's primary gimmick is the combination of two worlds, of light and dark, of blue and red. So into the game, our main hero gains the ability to switch between these worlds, and the majority of gameplay revolves around that skill. So, enemies are color-coded, red enemies can only be hit while our character is blue and vice versa, but if we want to avoid projectile damage or activate certain platforms, we must be of the same color. It's not really a fresh or never before seen idea. Many video games attempted color-coded gameplay both before and after Outland, but here the slow progression of difficulty changes the challenge from simply dodging the projectiles to a rhythmical tapping of world-switching bumper button along with dance between and through the bullets, and the very quantity of them sometimes makes the game resemble a bullet hell type of video game. This one idea was properly realized through and through and is the main factor in what makes Outland, and especially the awesome final boss, so challenging and fun. And all other mechanics of the game work fine as a supplement for this bullet hellish concept, but I just kept wishing they were developed slightly more. Take graphics for example. The first striking thing about Outland is its beautiful visual style, with every enemy and platform being just a dark silhouette with subtle color accents which are both pretty and functional, and the locations are primarily made by the single distinguishing background accent mixed with variations in architecture. Great idea, right? Simple and stylish. Yet after the initial awe, I couldn't help but feel like all locations look more or less the same. Sure, the backgrounds change, but they are just that, backgrounds. You never interact with them, your eyes never really even focus on them, as they're stuck to the foreground when you jump and slash enemies. In fact, the only location other than the starting forest that I can recall off the top of my head are mountains, and that's primarily due to the falling snow and subtle white icy accents on the ground. You know, the ground I got to run across. Running and most other mechanics work just fine too. Moving the analog for the first time, I immediately felt and understood the controls and physics of my character. Outland is responsive and every fall or damage taken feels like it's due to player's fault, not game's. But that solid baseline is never really particularly expanded upon. Great Metroidvanias like Ori and the Blind Forest or Guacamelee expand your skill set with abilities that may be used for both combat and exploration, and Outland, well, it just doesn't. I believe you gain 3 or 4 abilities as the game progresses, most of which are somewhat generic and don't have any particularly creative uses, meaning I can't even remember exactly which ones I had by default and which ones I unlocked, and the same thing goes for combat as well. I got excited at first, seeing that I could do basic combos, sliding moves, launches, mid-air combos, and performing all of these was consistently fun. But why doesn't the game assess your combos somehow, for example? Why no hit counter or style meter or anything like that? And the exclusively combat-focused moves that you do gain use up your stamina, which I felt was too slow to regenerate, meaning I couldn't just include them in my regular combos, meaning I didn't use them pretty much at all. And really, that's the entirety of Outland, as you run, fighting enemies which could use a bit more variety between different levels, and gather coins and hidden collectibles that unlock concept arts. It's by no means a bad game, it's just fine, and I had enough fun to beat the entirety of it. But I absolutely wasn't compelled to get all achievements or 100%. It works, it's fine, it's not much more. If you really want to play a platformer or a Metroidvania and there's nothing else you could sink your teeth into, it will do alright. But if you still have Ori or Guacamelee or even Symphony of the Night to catch up on, you can probably skip Outland and don't feel like you're missing out on too much.